So yesterday we saw the features of town planning. We saw the features of houses. Okay, how the houses were planned. What was the layout of a house? What was the layout of the city? And then, um, what do you say? Uh, what were their occupations? Okay, their occupations. What are the kind of things? Bead making, boat making, then metallurgy, making all this kind of tools and all that, pottery, all this were their different occupations. Trade was very flourishing, not only within the civilization with other cities, but also with Mesopotamian civilization. And then what were the means of transport? In their free time, how did they spend? What were the means of amusement? So amusement for adults, they had dice games. For children, they had all these terracotta toys which they used to play, whistles and all those. And then hunting and fishing were some of the hobbies for elders. And also they played musical instruments like the drum and the lyre. Lyre, I told you yesterday, is a stringed instrument like a harp. Have you all seen a harp at any time? So if you haven't seen, you can just Google it after the class. It's a, it has many strings in it. Okay, that's a string. That's like that only. Lyre is like that. So that stringed instrument they used to play. So basically, we saw all that, and we also saw the lost wax process, how the dancing girl is made. I hope you all understood the dancing girl's lost wax process. You understood, right? First, make a sculpture with wax, coat it with clay, then you bake it. When you bake it, the clay will become hard and the wax will melt, and a hollow mold will be created. In that hollow mold, you pour molten metal, cool it down. Then when it cools, it becomes hard. Then after that, you break the mold and you get the statue. This is the lost wax process. Okay. So all that we have already covered. Now we come to the last part of the lesson. That is, how did it decline? Why, how come this was, it went off? Where did it disappear, vanish? What were the reasons? Now, children, around 1800 BC, Harappan civilization declined. Okay. And the reasons are, many reasons, theories are there. But the civilization itself was so big, it was so spread out, it was spread out in a large area. So I have a feeling that, all these reasons, it's not that, one reason was responsible for declining the whole civilization. All these reasons are responsible because in different parts of the civilization, it is possible that different things happened, different events occurred, which led to the decline in that particular area. Are we clear? And uh, one more thing which I did not mention, I think, was that the Harappan civilization was a very peaceful civilization. Okay, they were peace-loving people, and they did not have any wars with anybody. Neither did they, with their neighboring places, cities, or other other areas in their own uh, civilization. That is, see, when we had kings, we know that every king used to keep on going to wars with his neighboring kings to extend his power and area and all. Correct? That was common. But in Harappan civilization, we see that, they did not make any weapons. In all these excavations, we did not get any weapons at all. Okay. So the only weapons you can say were spears and all, which we got, but which was used by them to protect themselves against wild animals. Okay. So they did not have any kind of wars or any kind of conflicts with other people. So it was a very peace-loving uh, civilization. So they didn't go to wars, they didn't make weapons. So that is why I think, they were not prepared for facing any attack by anybody else. Okay. So let's go to all the reasons one by one. Then we will be able to understand. First is floods and earthquakes. See, what historians have, why? Because in Mohenjo-daro, see, yesterday we discussed Mohenjo-daro, the name Mohenjo-daro means mound of dead. Mound of dead means this historians, when they excavated under the surface of the earth, they found many skeletons. Okay, that is why it was like lot of skeletons, and on that the mud was covered. That is why it is called Mohenjo-daro or Mound of Dead. Now, all these skeletons, that show that they were all buried. That means they all got drowned. Okay, the whole civilization got drowned by a flood. So in Mohenjo-daro, it was flood. So what was the flood? How did it? It was normal floods occur. Whenever rainy season happens, the river will overflow. Some of the water will come into the cities. That is why they made the citadel. If it was normal flooding, they can run to the citadel and they can protect themselves. Citadel also was not in a very great height. It was some 10 or 12 feet it was high. That's all. It was not very big that it can protect them from very big floods. Okay. But this kind of flood, the historians and archaeologists, they feel that it's not a normal flooding. What has happened is inside, see, whenever earthquakes and all happen, we know that the shape of the earth changes. Okay, so what happens? This Sutlej and Yamuna, no, that is a different thing. Sorry, not 1 minute. Huh? This floods and earthquakes, when it happened, under the river bed got this shaken, or what do you say, the way the river bed was, it changed. Okay, the floodplain rose up. So when it comes up like that, then the water has to flow, isn't it? It has to flow. If the river bed rises up like this, what will happen? The water will flow. If the river bed is down, the water is there. But if the river bed is rising, what will happen? The water will flow. Correct? So that is what happened. The normal course of the river, it was not able to follow the normal course of the river and get drained into the ocean. Because of all these earthquakes, the river bed, the way the land was under the river, that land went up and down in such a way that the slope, came towards the city. The city was in the slope. Okay. So all the water rushed to the city. It rushed to the city. And when flood happened, it was so much that, the whole city itself got submerged in water. Okay. The whole city got submerged in water. So one reason is floods. And floods accompanied with earthquakes. Earthquakes were the reason why the flooding became more and uncontrollable. Okay, because earthquakes, they altered the flood, what do you say, the river beds. They altered the river beds so that all the water starts flowing into the city and not in the course of the river. Okay. The second reason is increased aridity. Increased aridity. Aridity means dryness. Okay, what is arid? Arid means dry places are called arid. So increased aridity, dryness happened. Means there was no water. When there is no water, can anybody survive? So the people were forced to leave that area and go away to another area. So why did that increased aridity happen? So there was this river called Ghaggar River. Okay, Ghaggar River, which was all in that area only. That Ghaggar River had two tributaries. One is Sutlej and the other is Yamuna. Yamuna and Sutlej were two tributaries which were joining the Ghaggar River, and it was giving water to the Ghaggar River. But then what happened? Tectonic plate disturbances. No, tectonic plates under the earth keeps on shifting. In geography, you would have read all these things. So there are tectonic plates under the earth, surface of the earth, which moves. When these tectonic plates move, then what will happen? Sometimes the courses of the river also change. because of tectonic plate movement, Sutlej got moved. It moved, and where did it go? It joined the Indus River. The Sutlej River joined the Indus River, and Yamuna River, it also moved and it joined the Ganga. Okay, so two tributaries which were coming together and joining the Ghaggar River. Sutlej went this side and joined the Indus, and this side Yamuna went and joined the Ganga. So the two tributaries which were giving water to Ghaggar River were not there. So Ghaggar River dried up. So when Ghaggar River dried up, all the towns and cities which were located on the banks of Ghaggar River had no water. So naturally, the people had to move away to other places. You understood? So this is again one reason: increased aridity. Okay. Then deforestation. We know that this Harappan civilization was a Bronze Age civilization. Bronze Age civilization means metals. So you need lot of heat to melt metals. No, it's not easy to melt metals. You need lot of heat. That means they were cutting forests like anything. Okay, they were cutting so many trees to burn them so that they can melt the metals. And not only were they cutting the forest for melting metals, they were cutting the forest for various purposes. Like one is pottery, bricks. Even to bake the bricks, they need heat. And then they were using wood even to make furniture, doors, windows, and everything. So for furniture, for baking the pottery, for baking bricks, and for melting metal. For all these purposes, they were using trees. And when they were cutting trees in such great quantities, it led to deforestation. And deforestation is very bad. We know when there are no trees, there won't be rains. When there are no rains, the rivers will dry up. All sorts of problems. So naturally, because of deforestation, over a period of time, people had to move away. And also, when there are no trees, they need trees for doing all these activities. So they have to go to other places where there are jungles and trees. Correct? So these are all the reasons why deforestation led to the decline of the Harappan civilization. Attack by Aryans. Now this is also one reason. Aryan race children, Aryan race, they came from Central, Central Asia. Central Asia is all that Syria, Viria, and those areas only. Okay, Russia. Okay, from Russia, below Russia, all those places. That is the area where we call it Central Asia. So the Aryans belong to that place. Okay, and the Aryans were very, very strong, warrior-like people. Aryans were warriors. Okay, so they came when naturally they wanted land and their population was increasing. They wanted more lands, so they started moving eastward. So the Aryans came, and when they reached this Harappan, when they reached the Indus Valley, they killed everybody. They massacred. So it was massacre means killing all the population. Okay. So massacred everybody, and then they occupied the Indus Valley. That is also one theory. So we have four theories of decline. Understood? First theory is flooding. Flooding, and not normal flooding, flooding which was accompanied with earthquakes, which altered the floodplains, which led to all the water coming into the city rather than going in the ocean. That was one reason for the whole city to be submerged in water. Second, increased aridity. Increased aridity is because of Ghaggar River. Ghaggar River, which was getting water from two tributaries, Sutlej and Yamuna. These two rivers, because of tectonic plate movement, they got separated from Ghaggar, and one was, Sutlej was captured by the Indus River, and Yamuna was captured by the Ganga River. So these two tributaries were captured by two other rivers, and naturally Ghaggar River became dry. So when Ghaggar River became dry, all the people living on the banks of Ghaggar River had to go away to other places. Then Deforestation, because it was a Bronze Age civilization. Extensive cutting of trees for melting metals, pottery, making furniture, baking bricks, etc. That is why deforestation occurred. Then that led to the decline. Attack by Aryans. So this Aryan warrior race, which came from the Central Asia, when they came, they wanted new lands. So they came here and they killed all the Harappans. So as I told you before, the Harappans were a peaceful civilization. They did not go into war with anybody. They did not have weapons. So naturally, when the Aryans came and attacked them, they were not equipped and they were not ready to defend themselves or protect themselves from the attack of Aryans. So the Aryans could kill all of them, and they settled down in the Indus Valley. Are we now clear with all the reasons for decline? All the four reasons are very important. They'll ask you a question. Uh, State the reasons for the decline of the Harappan civilization. 4 marks. You have to write everything. You just can't write the headings. You have to write the headings: floods and earthquakes, and you have to give a brief description of why it happened because of floods and increased aridity. You have to explain the Ghaggar River and its tributaries. Deforestation, you have to explain why deforestation led. Attack by Aryans, also you have to say that Aryans came and they massacred. And they came to know about this Aryans massacring, because in one room they found 13 skeletons. When excavations happened, 13 skeletons were found in one room, and there were children, there were women, skeletons of women, of children, of elders, everything was there. That means they just came and killed everyone. So that is the evidence that the historians and archaeologists got to say that they were Aryan attacks there. So that is the reason for decline. Now we will see what was the because of Indus Valley civilization, later civilizations, how did they benefit from this? So that is the significance. So significance is how the later civilizations benefited from the Harappan civilization. First is technique of baked pottery. Okay, so they passed on their technique of baked pottery, brick making, bead making, all these things. The later civilizations, they continued. What the Harappans knew, that knowledge they continued, and they also continued it. The technique of cultivating cotton, this is one of the biggest contributions of Harappan civilization. The way they grew cotton was learned by the Egyptians. The Egyptians learned this technique, and they for several centuries they grew cotton like that. And Egypt is actually a very big center. It's famous for cotton. And from where did they learn? They learned from the Indus people. Then worship of Shiva, mother goddess, elements of nature, all this, even today it is continuing. In Hinduism, we still worship Shiva, we still worship, Mata Rani and all that. We still worship Durga, all forms of a woman like Lakshmi, Saraswati. So all these women goddesses, that is mother goddess. Mother goddess is a collective name given to all female deities. Okay, so even today we worship them. Elements of nature. Today also in Hinduism we do worship the elements of nature. Agni, Vayu, Surya, and all are still considered as gods by us. So all this is sort of a gift given by Indus Valley people to us. Okay, this is a gift given by them. So this is the significance of the Harappan civilization. Did you understand? So from Harappan civilization, we learned how to make bricks, how to bake pottery, how to grow cotton, and the worship of all these gods is continued by them. Okay, so with this, we come to an end of this